So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Villa fans, and welcome back again to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And we've said this 1,000,001 times, I think, since the start of the season. But podcasts and matches are coming thick and fast, and it's a great way to be because we've wanted to have this for a long time, specifically with European football and being in the Premier League. But Aston Villa play Fulham on Sunday 2 p.m. Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one, as I've said before. It's a very important game. Go home game, I suppose, really before the international break, and one that I would love for us to get 3 points in. Paddy, how are you doing? You any bit better?
I'm getting there slowly but surely. A win on Sunday would make me a whole lot better, I think. I think there's nothing worse than going into an international break off a loss. So I'm hoping that we can get this over the line on Sunday and make my trip to Amsterdam next weekend a lot more enjoyable, not having to worry about Villa losing their last game.
Why are you after Amsterdam again for? Oh, you were supposed to go for the Alkmaar game, were you? And then
I'm going to Ireland versus Holland instead.
Yeah. I knew that you were going to Amsterdam. I knew you were supposed to go to Amsterdam for the Alkmaar game, and then you were going to Amsterdam for another reason. Yeah. And you're going to be watching newly minted in a lot of ways, minted and signed Evan Ferguson, hopefully for Ireland that day as well. So that's going to be great. And I am fully jealous. But as I say, we got to get Fulham out of the way first, Paddy. And Fulham are coming off, I think they're 15th in the league at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. Fulham are 15th in the league. They're coming off in different results, I think is probably fair to say. Have had a tough start to the season, both on and off the field. Tough even build up to the season, Paddy, I think, with all them fury over Mitrovic and their manager going and not going, and then Paulinho in the last day of the season. So it's not been very easy for them, I think, off the field and on the field that is translated, because let's face it, they had a really fairy tale season last season and were really in contention until Mitrovic decided to go absolutely buck ape towards the end of the season. And his goals they found his goals very hard to come by this season, Paddy, and that's probably why they've had indifferent results, because he was the difference.
And that's it, and it's hard to replace. And if you look at the teams that they've beaten, they've only beaten Everton, Fulham, Luton, and Sheffield United. They got a credible draw against Brighton a couple of weeks ago, and they very nearly held Man United to a draw, a 91st minute winner United got last weekend. So they are dangerous. They are capable of putting up a good performance. That's two good teams that they nearly got something out of. So we will have to be careful and not underestimate by any stretch what they're going to throw at us this week.
Yeah, it's like the big thing for me is that they're going to be without Muniz, the striker, and it's going to be, I would probably say it's going to be Vinicius. It's going to start for them. Raul Jimenez obviously made a move there, but look, unfortunately, Jimenez has not been anywhere near the striker he was prior to his head injury, which is very unfortunate for him from a personal point of view, from a personable point of view. You see him getting around the field and you see him playing football again. It's great to see him back, but the rigors of the Premier League, he's not scored an awful lot. And as I say, when you look at that, added for Fulham, their woes have been in front of goal. They've only scored 9 goals this season. That's tied with Bournemouth and Sheffield United, and Burnley have only scored 8. So they're the 4 lowest scoring teams. So essentially, they've the second lowest goal tally in the Premier League this season. Aston Villa having the second highest after Newcastle, having scored 26 goals. And the majority of our goals coming at home as well. You would think that if Aston Villa can keep this Fulham team scoreless, that we should win this game at the weekend. Without being cocky, we should win this game at the weekend just based on our home form. Scoring 2 goals or more, scoring 3 goals or more, I think, averaging at home this season, albeit the Brighton game being an anomaly of a 6-1, but a 6-goal game anyway. So, if Fulham being without Muniz as well, who's been showing promise for them up front, somebody that they've really looked towards, the three in behind them as well. So their midfield has been in a bit of flux. There not only has Mitrovic's goals been an issue, Andres Pereira as well was very good at getting assists, and he was very, very competent last season. And this season, he's been a bit in and out of the team, never mind in and out of form as well. So there's a knock-on effect from that as well. So I wonder what kind of lineup Fulham are going to go with. And again, Palhinha is their main man. He's their big player. Bayern Munich were looking to sign him for, I think it's nearly 50 million, or was it over it?
I'm surprised they didn't take their hands off, to be honest. For a player who had been a bit hot and cold, and then obviously he came into form, but 50 million I thought was slightly over what he would have been valued at. 28-year-old player, good player. Don't get me wrong, he's one to watch. Iwobi obviously alongside him as well has had, from a striker to a defensive midfielder over the last couple of years. Hasn't done too bad. It's at the back. I think we can really get at them. Like Big Rich Beam is no footballer. Neither is Calvin Bassey. So if that's
Rich Beam, was Rich Beam the golfer? Was he a golfer? Tim
Ream. Rich Beam. Maybe I'm just hoping they'll play Rich Beam.
I've said Jim Beam. Jim Beam, yeah, Rich Beam was a golfer. Now that would be some turn up for the books if.
You've seen footballers go the other way, but never a golfer playing football.
Yeah. He's 53, Rich Beam. So I wouldn't rule him out. Put it this way, I wouldn't rule him out. He's not retired from golf yet. So
Tim Ream is nearly 56 at this stage as well. He's 36 years of age. So yeah, I think that's where this will be won and lost. I think Calvin Bassey is getting away with more than being a Premier League footballer, to be honest. His move to Ajax didn't work out. This guy is just he makes me laugh every time I watch him. Just watch him pop up now at the back post to score the winner.
I was just about to say I think Calvin Bassey is being unfairly maligned because he's in a shit situation having to play the right centre half position, and the reason he's playing the right centre, like he would be in where Tim Ream is now, Rich Beam is now. If Tosin because I'm not. I've had 2 hot whiskies. I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname. If Tosin was in there and was the right centre half, I just think Calvin Bassey is just so left-footed that it's very difficult for him to play there. And I like Bassey. And I liked him when Villa were linked with him. I just think this is a bad team for him to come into for 2 reasons. Because he's going to have a lot of work to do with Anthony Robinson. Being there as well. It was a player I like, but much prefer him going forward than I do in defence.
Exactly. Yeah,
and I much prefer him going forward than I do in defence. And I think if Calvin Bassey was on that left hand side, I think it'd be a lot surer situation for them. But I think playing the 2 left-footed centre halves, which everybody here will know, I don't see it as an issue playing 2 left-footed centre halves. But when you've got somebody like Calvin Bassey, I just think he's very much left side dominant. And yes, he can play with his right foot, but the difference in him playing on that right side and the left side is phenomenal. I think for me, like his time at Rangers was pretty good. He's still raw, and I think wrong time, wrong team for him in the Premier League, really. Yeah, as I say, saying that, I think Ali Watkins takes both of them for a run at the weekend, and I think they're a good partnership for Ali Watkins to play against. Paddy, am I mistaken, or how do we fare against Fulham last season? Do we need a? Oh no, it wasn't. It was Crystal Palace where Anderson scored. See, sometimes I think that Anderson still plays with Fulham, but it was Anderson scored an own goal. Did we need an own goal to beat Fulham last season after the 3-0 game? When they
the most important one was the one that got Steven Gerrard the sack, the away game. They beat us well. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what the home game was. I'm assuming it was. I think it must have been after Christmas, I would imagine. I just can't remember. Somebody in the comments will stick that in there.
I've absolutely no recollection. So I'm actually looking it up here. I've no recollection of the game under Unai Emery last season. And we won 2-0. all apparently. Oh no, that wasn't it. That was in the we won 1-0. Yeah, we won
Bruce
1-0.
is saying that Ming scored and we won 1-0.
Ming scored and we won 1-0. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if I remember rightly, they had very little threat. They had very little threat, but we found it difficult to break them down. The reason I brought that up was because I knew that game was at home, and I was wondering, was it a precursor for what we might see at the weekend? But in that game last season, they had a lot of different things going for them. They had Manor Solomon, who was on a strong streak. He was poor against us that day. They had Dan James up front, who was a different kettle of fish to Vinicius, who actually came on that day as well. Just looking at it here. They had Tosin in there as well. They had Kenny Teta in there also right back, who will likely be missing. So like there are four big players that from them last season that they're going to be missing this season, and they're trying to replace. Like Timothy Castagna is in there right back. I think some of his best days are behind him. As a right back now, as a full-time right back in the Premier League. Once again, very good going forward. Very, very good going forward, but can be got at going backwards again. And you know, it's all well and good having two attacking fullbacks. Liverpool can get away with it. At times, Aston Villa can just about get away with it with our high line at the moment. And I've got, I hope to be speaking to Jacob Tanswell next week. And it's one of the things that we will be speaking about is the high line and both of our perceptions of it with regards to how it fits into tactical play as well. And I'm really looking forward to talking to Jacob about a lot of things tactically, because if anybody has read, if any of you are readers of The Athletic, Jacob's tactics stuff is just brilliant. I love it. So I'm looking forward to that. But these guys playing with two attacking fullbacks like that, I think Aston Villa can definitely get down the wings at them. I'm really disappointed we won't have Jacob Ramsey, because I think this is a game made for him, made for his ability to be able to run at that right back.
You would love to see it, all right, but then it could be a day for Moreno to come on and do that job too. And let's face it, Luca Dean has caused lots of troubles in that area of the pitch, so we won't rule him out and giving Timothy Castagna a rough time either.
Or I was even saying there, I still leaning on the fact that because Zaniolo didn't start at during the weekend as at Alkmaar, that potentially he's going to be the one who starts. He starts this Sunday as well, so like it could be a great game for him to get a Castagna, maybe cut inside on Calvin Bassey, who's not
exactly. That's
left
a battle,
and try and bang one into the back of the net there. So like, as favourable matchups come, and I know we always talk Zaniolo up, and I know I've gotten DMs and I get messages from people as well. We have, and we're 100% within our rights to it. We are very much praising Leon Bailey at the moment. We're just kind of going on what we think the team will be. Personally, I would play Bailey on the left. I would start Bailey from the left in this game. But to be honest with you, it's a good problem to have two players like that are battling for a position. And I know people are going to say, well, Zaniolo hasn't done much this year yet. And I think that's the operative word, is yet. And you know, we're still winning, and it's not like we're winning despite Zaniolo. He's providing, he's doing some things right, but he's not doing everything right, and he's obviously not getting goals and assists.
And let's not forget that Unai Emery is not the only one that sees something in Zaniolo. He's also back in the Italian squad for next week as well. So they know there's a big talent in there. Yes, you're right. It hasn't come to the fore. He hasn't hit the ground running. He has had flashes where we've seen what he's capable of. But the funny thing is, Zaniolo will tell you that he preferred to play off the right, and we think Bailey is better off the left. So someone's wrong in there. But look, that's why me and you are sitting here on a Friday night talking about Aston Villa, as opposed to worrying about who we're going to pick on a Sunday afternoon.
As I've said, Paddy, you know, we can take when it comes to team selections and having Unai Emery as our manager. Once I have 3 UEFA Cups lined up behind me here on the wall, then my opinion is as valid as Unai Emery's. Until that happens, all it is whispers in the wind. That's all it is, really. But no, we will still whisper. We can still continue to whisper and whisper loudly in the wind with regards to it as well, because I probably think I think that the club aren't done in the winger department, and I think the club aren't done in the striker department, and I think that we're going to be active there. Albeit we may not get somebody in, I think we'll be active and very active there in the January window. And I also think, I've said it before, I think we'll be active in the central midfield position as well. I have the Adrian Rabiot stuff just will not go away. That's all I'll say on that one. Not that I know much more than anybody else, but I've just heard it from a couple of people since. Not that anybody that would have massive connections to the club, it just will not go away. And that would be some signing, albeit he's a prick on the field. But it's nice to have our own pricks. I think is probably the way we've always said it. One of these players that you want to be playing with as opposed to playing against.
Yeah, you need a couple of pricks in your team, you know. Some people say we have one in goal and it really winds people up and gets under their skin. No harm having them. Absolutely no harm having them. We've been too nice for years. We look at that team that hovered around the relegation zone and eventually went down. Everyone was too nice. You know, from the managers right down to the substitutes, we were too nice. So we it's no harm having one in there. So if he comes, that is, we don't know for sure if that's even on the table.
Yeah. A couple of questions there, and we'll come back to the Villa Fulham piece there in a moment. But a couple of questions. Bruce asked there, Paddy, a question if you have time. Who drops into the Conference League from Europa? Is it all the third place teams, or
I think it's half of the best third place teams. I think that's how it works. So four.
As simple as that. It's not anything convoluted at all, Bruce. Yeah. Not anything convoluted at all.
The four best play the four second place teams, something like that, or the four worst second place teams, something silly like that. But it makes it easier then for the next round. You have a nice round number to go into each other.
That does make sense, actually. Yeah, if it is the four best of the rest. And Stu Hector,
we're not going to be in there, sure we're not.
No, doesn't matter. We're going to win the league, win our conference anyway. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. We won't need to worry about it. Stu asks, can we talk about the way we play heavily relies on who scores first? I'm going to give a little bit of a precursor to this because this is on my show notes to talk to Jacob Tanswell on this. So my thoughts on this are that I don't think it heavily relies on who scores first, because as Ed scored first yesterday, we made tactical tweaks after that. We came back and we won 2-1, albeit with a ghost corner that should never have been a corner. But still, I know exactly where you're coming from with regards to this. I think every ball dominant team are always going to go out with the mentality or with their game plan of scoring first. And if you score first against teams that want to be and need to be with their tactic to be ball dominant and force them to change their tactic, then it's going to take them time. Unless you're Man City. You know, Man City are operating on a different level, absolute different level with regards to that. Or unless you're Barcelona of the Pep Guardiola years, or if you're probably Bayern Munich in any year in the Bundesliga, just based on how poor some of the competition is there as well. So I suppose realistically, like when it comes to Aston Villa, I'm not too worried about that. Not too worried about it at the moment, because I'm more what I still don't even think that we're that proficient at playing the tactic that we're playing at the moment, even though we're getting the results. Like, it's, to me, we're 80% of the way there. But I still think that there's more work to be done there. I still think there are at least 3 players in the team that are not on, it's not even wavelength piece. I think Matty Cash at times finds it difficult to play in a ball dominant team, because I think he's traditional, and this isn't a criticism of him because he's having a really good season. He's popped up with goals and everything. But I think he's a traditional English fullback, and I think he wants to get up and down that side. And sometimes I think positionally, sometimes he can, and we've seen Unai Emery backing him on the sideline. Not a criticism. I think obviously when you've got a team where you've got Zaniolo, you've got Bailey in there as well, or to a lesser degree Diaby, at very lesser degree Diaby, they're not really prevalent ball dominant players. They want to get forward, and you look at it, and actually this proves my point, because when you look at the number sheets for any of the players after a game, I can guarantee you the 2 players who will have given away the ball the most in games would be Leon Bailey or Zaniolo.
Yeah.
Like, and it's disproportionate, because that's their natural thing, is to carry the ball forward. But that's what I talk about when Jacob Ramsey comes back. And if
you're giving away the ball, you want to be giving it away in the final third, and not either of the other 2 thirds.
Exactly.
Look, I think the question is probably more of a case of who we're playing against. So we played against Forest last week, who were able to get ahead and stay ahead. We played a team last week that we were able to boss after going behind and keep them back in their box. So it was a case of they got ahead, sat back, tried to keep us out as Forest did, and then hit us on the break. They couldn't get the second goal to kill us off. We eventually got back into the game. It's going to be different against everybody. in a few weeks' time, if we go 1-0 up against Spurs, they're still going to keep coming at us. Or if Spurs go 1-0 up against us, they're going to still keep coming at us. Same goes for Man City, same goes for Aston. But it all depends on who you're playing against, because as we saw with Forest, Luton, all those teams will all sit back and hope that they can hit you on the break.
I suppose really just revisiting the Forest game. It wasn't the first goal that killed us in the Forest game. It was the second goal. And I know that might sound a bit silly, but the second goal was the second goal was poor. It was a poor goal to concede. It was such a poor goal to concede at the wrong time, just coming in off half time. We were sure even though we conceded, yes, they could get in behind us with Elanga, but all it takes is for Aston Villa to get a goal. And I thought we might have gotten a goal and drawn 1-1, but I never thought I didn't think at that stage once we went 2-0 down, I never thought we were going to go back and draw 2-2 because of the way the game went and because of how physical Nottingham Forest were going to be. So, I don't think there's enough evidence to say that the way we play is heavily predicated on who scores first just yet. But I do think in the Forest game, the second goal was more of a killer than the first goal was.
Mm-hmm.
First goal was, without hitting my microphone. But we will have games, obviously, and we are a much better team when we score first. It's not poo-pooing that at all. Much better team when we score first. And I think we will score early against Fulham at the weekend. And we've seen it before. We score early, we go out and we score multiple goals. That's usually what happens. There is a lot of data to back that up as well. So it was actually a great question, Stu. And I want to delve into it more with with Jacob as well, with his tactical knowledge too. Getting back to Villa and Fulham, Paddy, as well. I spoke about obviously Fulham's striking woes at the moment. It's either going to be Vinicius or Raul Jimenez up front, and I think they're probably going to go with Vinicius. But behind, they've got a quandary there as well. Do they go with Willian? Do they go with Pereira? Do they go with Wilson in there? Do they move Iwobi further forward? Do they bring Harrison Reed in behind Palhinha? That midfield five, essentially, if they're going to play or who they're going to play there, that could be anyone. It genuinely could be any combination in there. And for me, I think that's probably one of the issues with Fulham at the moment is, the chopping and changing of that core area of the field, specifically when Marco Silva is so rigid, absolutely rigid in his 4-2-3-1 formation, and just backs it to, I was going not to a fault, but backs it to a point of to almost a point of principle, really, which can be seen as a massive positive if things are going right, but in a negative sometimes it'll be questioned. I think having that flux and that five in the middle of midfield, to me, it's going to be really interesting when the team sheets are announced to see who is in there, because I don't know whether it's going to give me hope or whether it's going to have me a bit more cautious about how we're going to perform there, because our midfield is so pivotal. That's why I'm bringing it up. And I don't think there's any way that Unai or that Paco can have a clue who they're going to play in that five. And for me, that unknown, I think, might be something that might take Aston Villa 15-20 minutes to feel their way into the game to see who they have in there. What do you think?
I have a feeling that they'll go with pace. I think Wilson will start. I think Pereira will start. I think Willian is the one that'll miss out, and I think they might bring in D. Cordova-Reid in there.
Yeah,
he always played very well against us. So that if I was playing Aston Villa, that would be my setup in that three behind the striker. I think you're right. I think Vinicius will start, and the one change I would make for them is to put D. Cordova-Reid giving us trouble down that flank, and Wilson, who we know is very quick as well, and that's where they can get at us. So I'm sure that would be forefront of their mind, that's who they would pick. As you say, I think it will be Iwobi and Palhinha. It could be Reed as well, the other Reed in Harrison Reed. Is that his name?
Lukic has been a decent player for him as well. Sasa Lukic, another holding midfielder in there.
Yeah, good solid player too. He played better maybe in last season than he has started this season, but decent signing for them in January. But other than that, I'm not expecting any changes at the back. Obviously, they've got a good goalkeeper in there as well in Leno. all foes up against each other on either end of the pitch. Look, should be an interesting game. Should really be an interesting game. It's a game we should win, and I'm hopeful that we will win and will score goals in.
Yeah, I think so too. And I hope we score goals, and I hope we go into and put right the wrongs, I suppose, of Nottingham Forest. We've been really good since the 3-game losing streak of Man City, Arsenal, and Leicester. We've been pretty good at getting back up on the horse again after a loss.
Yeah.
So it was specifically in the league. So hopefully we can do that again against Fulham. And I think that we have every reason to be optimistic and hopeful, as opposed to but being respectful, as Michael Huggins always says, of the opposition. I don't know who they're going to play in that midfield 5, so I'd be reticent to say how like to give any kind of a prediction with regards to this. Paddy, since I might not be around the team sheet tantrum, do you want me to tell you who I would take from this team, or is there anybody from this team that I would
go for it?
I would have. So there's somebody I would take in the team. There's 2 people I take in the team. I take Burton Leno, but obviously we've got a very good goalkeeper. I take Tosin in our squad, but I don't know, is there anybody that I would have in our team, in our starting 11? Probably, actually, do you know, I do. I'm telling lies. I'd have Palhinha in there every day of the week. I was thinking to myself, would he fit our system? And I was mulling around with it, and I was going to get to it, and I was going to make this whole, I wonder, will I have him in there? Who am I fooling? The man's a tackling machine. He's just like, he's a brick wall. He's an absolute brick wall. He's a tackling machine in there. And imagine him in Unai Emery's system. There beside Douglas Luiz and another, if you wanted to play a 3 in midfield. I think he'd be absolutely fantastic in a team in the Premier League. So probably Palhinha is probably the one that I would take in the team.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Probably a bit late for Leno. I'd prefer a younger backup goalkeeper, but I definitely believe Palhinha could do a job for us. And if it was a day we wanted to close up shop and make that defensive midfield at 3 and just cover the back 4 against who knows, a Man City or an Arsenal or a Tottenham, that would be absolutely ideal for him to fit in there. But yes, I wouldn't pick anyone else either.
Yeah, like he's a better defensive midfielder than Boubacar Kamara. Like, that's being objective. Like, that is he's a better like he's not going to get caught on the edge of his box like Kamara does.
Probably
he's not as good a passer of the ball.
Exactly.
And he's not as good going forward. I'm talking solely defensive midfielder. Defensive midfielder. So there's swings and roundabouts with Kamara.
He pops up with the odd goal as well, in fairness to him too.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, he does. Yeah, he does. And as I say, he's a leader. He's one of these born-bred kind of hard man leaders as well, which they never go astray, as we said before. They've never gone astray. Yeah. So I'm reticent to give any. I usually give production this, but a prediction. Production certainly is not anything that I give in these streams. Jesus Christ! But a prediction is.
You have said we were going to win, so that's a start.
Yeah, I have, and the best part of production I can do is stuff like this and crowd cheers, and I've been trying to populate my soundboard as well. Oh yeah, I was populating it with this one, and I don't know when I'm ever going to use it, but 3, 2, 1, fight. Don't know why. I said I'd pop it in there because I said there's going to be a time when there's going to be a time when
you need to stop playing with your toys. Every time you play with your toys, you end up losing audio, and I don't want to be sitting here on my own.
Well, I didn't say anything when I pressed it, so I didn't say anything there. So that's why. But as I say, I don't know when I'm ever going to use that unless I've got 2 guests that are having a crack off each other, and I'm going to tell everybody to stop, and I'm going to press that, and then it'll come in handy at some stage. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. But look, as I say, we're going to be back again on Sunday with, I don't know which one I'm going to be able to make at this moment in time, but I probably won't be able to make 2 post-match, unless you want to do a Paddy's directly on the final whistle. We might do the post-match a small little bit later, because I know I definitely won't be around for that one, but I potentially will make the Team Sheet Tantrum. So Team Sheet Tantrum will be happening on the Sunday. Post-match might be a bit later. I'd say that's the way we're going to go with it. And as I say, the big main event of Fulham versus Aston Villa is what we'll all be hoping that we get a result in as well. Yeah, so I want to say thanks once again to everybody for watching and for listening to the podcast. As I say, I say it in a lot of podcasts, but I mean it in every single podcast I say it in, and even the ones I don't, because it's great crack having you guys in the comments. And sometimes we get thorny, and sometimes we won't, and sometimes we'll be full of joy, and sometimes we'll be full of piss and vinegar, and that's fandom, and it's real, I suppose. Really, is what you get here, and yeah, really enjoying this season, and thanks a million for everybody for coming and chatting as always, and for liking the podcast and for sharing it out and stuff like that. So really, really appreciate it. We were just looking at numbers. The reason I say that is myself and Paddy were just looking at numbers, and we've had as many downloads and views and stuff in the last 3 months as we did in the previous 6 months of the year, and that's all down to you guys, just showing up and being great for us and spreading the word. So thanks a million. Really, really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate it. And also thanks to the guys in Sports Social Podcast Network. I very rarely give them a shout out. They say they've been great mentors to us here, and the podcast network is growing from strength to strength. If you guys are interested in any sports whatsoever, if you just go to the Sports Social Podcast Network webpage, you'll find a podcast there that will be top notch. I can guarantee you that. It's the biggest podcast network in all of Christendom. I don't know how big it is. I think it's the second biggest in the world actually at this stage. And we were there. We were one of the first. I think we were in the first 5 podcasts ever to sign up for it. So you can spot a winner sometimes, I think. But yeah, give them a shout out, give them a look, and see if there's anything there that tickles your fancy. But in the meantime, we will be back on Sunday with a team sheet tantrum and probably a later post-match podcast. But so join us for that. And yeah, in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.